What's up, people? It's December 31st. You know what that means? It is New Year's Eve. So, this is the last evening of 2024, and some of us are treading cautiously into the new year. Well, in fact, a lot of us are because of the election results. And of course, all that stuff is going to trickle down. Good news for those of us in North Carolina is that the majority of the state elections came out in the favor of progressives and those who are left of center, and Democrats and the liberals. So that's embrace that. But we've got a long 2 years before the next national election will happen, when we can start switching out senators and House of Representatives for control of Congress. And remember, it is not the president who creates the bills. It is Congress who creates the bills and puts them into law. The president's power is in his influence and who he picks for federal positions. But remember, the federal government's reach can only go so far. I will say this about President-elect Trump. He's a gamesman. He surrounds himself with people who can play this game very well. And so we need to be awake, we need to be paying attention, and we need to be connected to each other so that we don't miss anything that's under the rug. All right. But that's not the purpose of the video today. That's just a little nugget for you to think about going into 2025. Happy Kwanzaa to you. Today is day 6, next to the last day of Kwanzaa. And today's day 7 Kwanzaa word is kuumba. That's Kuumba. It has 2 U's in it, but it's not kuamba as I thought it was. It's kuumba. That is Swahili for creativity. So the principle for today's Kwanzaa principle word is to do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. The food for the day, it's another drink, but I've never heard of this. It is molasses water. So if you got any molasses around, got some water, put those two together. I have never seen it. I have never tasted it, but that is the food for the day. So let's go back to the principle. To do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial, than we inherited it. So the translation again is creativity. And as an individual, I think about what I can do, small picture of making my community beautiful and beneficial. My housemate said something today that gave me thought, that he would go out with his dog further out than I do to pick up trash off the ground, so that when people came to the neighborhood, it would be a pleasing experience for them to come into our neighborhood from the outer streets, not see trash and all that, because he's from Philadelphia, and he's always said that there are major parts of Philadelphia that are trashy. And for the most part, Charlotte does a good job with keeping the city streets clean, but the house is actually out in the county, not incorporated, and we are left to our own devices for the most part about keeping neighborhoods, sidewalks, yards, things like that clean. And so when I was trying to get back into a healthy rhythm, taking walks, I would go around and pick up the trash at the entrance, which is our neighborhood property lines, and do that. And sometimes I would come back with 2 full bags of trash. It's ridiculous. That is just a matter of laziness and not caring. There is no reason for anyone to be throwing trash out their window thinking that somebody else is going to pick it up. You don't know that. You don't know the rules of the county. Maybe you probably don't even care about how the government works because you got an axe to grind against the government. I have axes to grind with the government. We all have axes to grind with different local pieces of government, but that doesn't have anything to do with you actually physically taking a piece of trash and putting it in a trash can. Or when you have trash that you generated when you went to some restaurant to pick up food out of a drive-through and you're eating it on the way, don't throw that crap out of the window for somebody else to pick it up. That's your trash. Keep it in your car until you get to someplace till you can put it in a trash receptacle. You get me? Don't be trashing up somebody else's neighborhood that you don't live in. Keep the trash for yourself. So that's a small picture thing. But yeah, I'm a little passionate about that. I'm tired of picking up everybody else's trash. You know, these people own these homes, beautiful homes, streets. There are entities that keep the grass cut, the bushes trimmed, and yet we got people coming around here, and it's not just in my part of the neighborhood, in this part of the city. It's all over the place. I can tell you the same issues were happening in Kansas City when I lived in Kansas City. But it's so everyone, just take your hand, pick up the trash that you see, and dispose of it properly, and then you can have, I have my bottle with me, hand sanitizer. Remember the days of COVID? Still don't have a new normal, so you got hand sanitizer to sanitize your hands, and then you can get whatever lotion you want to do to soften them up. It's not rocket science. Don't throw shit out the window. Now, other things that we can do, people have other skills, other talents. Think about when you go downtown and you look at the skyline. A lot of people, no matter what city you're in, just so absolutely proud of the skyline. And Charlotte does have a beautiful skyline. Those architects who designed those buildings and then the contractors who actually put the pieces together, those are intentional designs. Think about the architects who designed the homes, and you keep up your home. You keep the siding clean. You keep your yards trimmed. Well, then there are pieces of art that are installed. There are clothing designers. You wear the colors of your community. Particularly if you are from an immigrant nation. I see some of the most beautiful African design tunics and wraps, just beautiful colors. That is a manner of creativity. Or you can come up with ideas of recycling. That is creativity. But if you want to be in its purest, think about what affects people physically and emotionally. The first thing that comes to my mind is the Ivan Haley dance troupe. I can just sit there in a seat and just watch a video or actually go to a theater and see a performance and just be just mesmerized by the movement of the body, the different parts of the body, creating this dance. It's creating an emotional response in me. That is creativity. So there are different ways that we all can participate in Kwanzaa, creating a more beautiful and beneficial community. The one thing that it's on the top of my list that I might start tonight, but I won't finish it, it'll take me some time to do it, is to create a Nextdoor profile for our neighborhood so that messaging can happen and small businesses can promote their services on Nextdoor. Because you've got people who are in need of services in the neighborhood, but they may not know there could be someone in the neighborhood who could provide that service. So that is another way, another way to be able to provide the services. And that is creativity. That's creating a beneficial process in your neighborhood. And again, I go back to this all the time, and just my little nugget that I say all the time. This stuff is not rocket science. Now, it will take a minute to just get into it because of the whole way that we have been trained to look for instant gratification. And for example, even this video, if this video is more than 10 minutes, most people will probably get into it. And I would hope that they would stay to the end But I can raise my hand and say some of the videos that I see, I will get into them, and then I have to just drop out of it just because I just can't stay with it. And hopefully my video process will evolve as I go along and as I learn how to do inserts and things like that. But this is a matter of creativity of my own, even creating this channel, that could help somebody else who may not know anything about the topic that I'm talking about. And so I'll go back to the principle to do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. You could even go so far as to create at a cul-de-sac where there are no homes, it's just the road deads in there. Put up a basketball goal for the kids in the neighborhood to go play basketball. Or then make it multi-purpose. Not every kid wants to play basketball. Maybe throw up a soccer goal so they can just, the smaller ones can just kick the ball in the goal with adult supervision, getting them out of the house in front of the video games and getting some physical activity. And maybe some of the older kids who are on soccer teams or basketball teams can practice their hook shots, can practice their strike kicks and everything. You know, those are just creative ideas. It also helps the neighborhood. It helps the children in the neighborhood. You know, and then I was just thinking about this for 5 minutes. I can imagine there are people out there much, much more smarter than me that can come up with ideas on how to do this. But that's the Kwanzaa principle for today. Kuumba, to do always as much as we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. And we always want to do that generationally. The goal is for one generation to leave the earth better for the next generation. There are debates about where the ball was dropped here lately at the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, where I think Gen Y, maybe even Gen X can say the transfer from the boomers to Gen X, the ball was dropped. And then the ball still hasn't been picked up since the onset of Gen Y and Gen Z. And if you just look at the political climate and landscape, this is where we are. And so if someone were to ask me, did my mother or my parents, my family, set this up so that I would have a better opportunity than they did? Small picture, I can say yes. Big picture, no, they did not. And the main reason they did not is because they couldn't know what was coming. They couldn't. None of us can know what's coming. And sometimes when we think something is coming and something is going to happen, we're dumbfounded when it doesn't happen. The outcome of the 2024 election. Presidential election, I should clarify. Those are subjects for other videos. Again, an early Happy New Year to you. Tomorrow is the last day of Kwanzaa, where we'll be talking about faith. But until then, I will not be participating in the libation of celebrating New Year's at the stroke of midnight like I used to. Just be staying in. I might see it on the television before I knock off to get up tomorrow and eat some New Year's Day food. If you choose to do that, or somebody might be taking some hangover medication. But that won't be me. So take care. Be safe tonight. Please be safe tonight. Have your celebration. Be amongst friends and families. If you're not by yourself, please understand spiritually, there are other people who are in the same position that you are, even in the same house, just in different bedrooms, keeping to themselves. Remember, that connection is still there. You do not have to feel like you're alone. Some of us handle it better than others, and that's okay. But when we're talking about Kwanzaa, we are talking about community, so there has to be connection. But until then, have a good evening. Happy New Year. And we'll see you next year with the last principle of Kwanzaa. Peace.